welcome to another episode of Pet Pals. I'm Bethany Davidson, the Humane Educator here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. And starting off with a little bit of a wiggly cat for us is our volunteer coordinator, Sean Snyder, doing our animal wrangling services as usual. And in the last couple of episodes, I have talked about how, kittens kind of get, snatched up pretty quickly, and then those adult cats kind of linger. And Marisol is a cat that lives kind of in the middle. She's one of our older kittens. She's just under a year old at this point, at about 11 months old. And she's been with us for a period of time. And, because she's not that tiny little kitten that weighs 2 pounds, she's kind of getting overlooked. But she's definitely a volunteer favorite. I see volunteers at her cage all the time. And they really enjoy spending time with her. And she, she's still young. She's still going to be with your kids. She's going to grow up with your kids just like that, 3-month-old kitten is going to do. And she's a very confident cat. We've done our behavior assessments on her like we do with all of our, 6 months and older cats and dogs. And she's confident with strangers. She will let you pick her up easily. She will initiate those, interactions she wants to be socialized with. She's also been okay with kids petting, which is a little bit more rougher petting styles, which, if you have younger kids in your household and that might be something that pops up, she's going to be okay with it. She's not going to get super upset by those things.
So she has a personality trait that's somewhat sought after. What's that?
So she is one of our lap cats, and she's not showing it as clearly here right now. There's a lot going on. She's in a new space. She can hear the lawnmower outside. So it's a little bit stressful for her. But in the cat adoption room where she is comfortable, and that's where she lives, she's on volunteer laps all the time. And because that is such a sought after characteristic in our cats, and one that is more easily identifiable in the adult cats who have more set personalities, we've marked all of those so that there are signs on about almost I feel like close to a dozen cats on the adoption floor right now that say lap cat right on the cage, so that you can easily pick them out if that's something that you're seeking. And they are in a variety of age ranges. I think Marisol is probably the youngest of the lap cats, but we also have several seniors, quite a few that fall in that 1 to 4 age range as well. And she just comes right out and sits on laps, and they sit there and they pet her, and she really enjoys that. We're hoping that advertising these traits that are often sought after by adopters will help these adult cats get adopted in this time of year where they kind of are overlooked and neglected a little bit by our visitors. So if you're looking for a lap cat and one that's going to be young and be able to, handle your kids and grow up with them, then maybe Marisol is going to be a good fit for you. But you won't know until you meet her, and you can go to visit fcac.as.me to start that process. Our next cat is another one of our kind of young adults. This is Lorelei, and she's about a year old. And Lorelei is a beautiful cat. She's what we would call a dilute tortie and white. Typically torties have the blacks and the orange tabby pattern, but the dilute version you get the grays and the cream tabby, which is often sought after. People like the color pattern. It makes her stand out. It's quite striking. It is often confused for calicos. Just because they have white on them doesn't mean that they're a calico. Calicos tend to be mostly white and then have distinct patches of a solid color. If you look at Lorelei here, you can see how her colors are all kind of mixed in, like somebody spilled paint and just kind of swirled it together, which is an easier way to tell, are they a tortie or a calico? She's got beautiful green eyes, and she is a product of our foster care system. So we do have a little bit more information about her. I just heard her chirp not that long ago, and her foster parents did say that she was quite a chatty girl. They also described her as very sweet. I think they said the sweetest cat you'll ever meet, and that she was definitely a cat that's going to purr, and they just called her a purr box because that's all she wanted to do. She has been pretty outgoing, at least in my interactions with her. She's very curious. She wants to get out and explore, and she was recently spayed. So she's ready to go home. There's nothing, she doesn't have to wait for a surgery date or any of those things to be able to go to your house. So she's going to be an animal that's going to be able to make a quicker transition into your home if you think she's going to be a good fit for you.
So Lorelei, she's one of our mom cats, right?
Yep. So that's why she was in foster care, because she was raising her kittens. If you visit the shelter, there are actually 4 kittens that are slightly above her and over to the left a little bit. I think they're Yin Yang, Mocha, and Francis, who's already adopted. The kittens tend to go quicker, and the adult cats, the moms tend to linger a little bit. But again, because she was a mom cat, she had the benefit of spending that time in foster care. So we do know that she's a great cat in a home and is super affectionate, and the best predictor of an animal's behavior in a new home is behavior in a past home. So based on those things, I think she's going to be a great fit for any households. And her foster parents are pretty active on our Facebook page. So if you go into the comments and ask questions, they have been responding to people's questions, not only about the kittens, but about Lorelei as well, in terms of, what she likes and her size and things like that. So our Facebook page is always a great resource. And you can often see the foster parents commenting underneath the profile pictures of the cats that they've had in their household. If you're interested in Lorelei, you want to go to visitfcac.as.me to book an appointment to meet with her. We have a lot of terrier mixes on the show for you today, but the first dog we have is something a little bit different. This is one of our little lab mixes. This is JC, and she's about 2 years old, and apparently Sean has found the perfect spot there, that little scratch spot that she's enjoying, doing a little wiggle butt dance there for us. And she is a dog that's described as incredibly sweet and affectionate, but she does take some time to get to know new people. She is a little bit fearful of strangers at first, new environments, things like that, which I definitely saw when I was taking pictures of her. I go and take pictures of them. Usually it's when they're first made available for adoption. And she let me go right into her kennel, but she was a little bit tense. She was definitely like, "What are you doing? Okay, I will take that treat, but don't get too close." And then she was like, "Oh, you have treats. Let me get a little bit closer," but still keeping our distance. And that was probably 2 weeks ago maybe. And already you can see that she is much more comfortable in new environments, new people, because she's being taken out by our volunteers. She's getting handled a lot more, and she's just getting familiar with the surroundings. Treats are always a great way to show dogs that things are good. You don't always have to hand feed them. You can toss them on the floor to give them a little bit more space if they need that. But JC is a dog that definitely is going to need a little bit of time to warm up. Training is always a great way to help build confidence in a dog, because it shows them that they can be successful, they can win those treats, and it really helps build that. And those are things that she really needs to work on. A lot of dogs are pullers, but this one sometimes lags behind because she's a little bit more fearful and cautious. She needs to learn that, she can be confident on the leash and things like that. But overall, a nice dog who just needs that right family that's going to be able to spend some time with her.
So she's recommended to homes without young children. Why is that? So
when we say no small children, what we're really usually talking about, obviously it varies from child to child and families and their situations, but as a general rule, we mean, we're talking about kids 6 and under. And the reason for that is our staff has kind of noticed that JC is a little bit fearful of loud noises and fast movements. So, she hears a big noise, she's gonna, startle and kind of jump back. If you're running fast really in front of her, that might catch her off guard, things like that. And younger kids tend to do those things, and they also have a more challenging time understanding that it might make the dog uncomfortable and that maybe they shouldn't do that. So in order to set the dog and the family up for success, we recommend that if your kids aren't really used to a nervous dog or dogs in general, that maybe you avoid adopting a dog like JC if your kids are under the age of 6. But as I mentioned, it is not a hard and fast rule. If you have a dog just like JC at your house and your kids are totally used to that and comfortable with it and understand the rules and boundaries, then we'll gladly show JC to you and your family. But if you think that you have the home that's going to help build this dog's confidence and turn her into the dog that she's meant to be, you can go to visitfcac.as.me to book that appointment. Our next guest is Juan, and he is one of 3 dogs that came in together that we actually seized as part of a cruelty case. So it was Juan, Gotti, and then Sydney. Right now, Juan is the thinnest of the 3. We've been working to get some weight back on him, and he is also one that has a bit of an allergy issue, which is not uncommon with pit bull type dogs, but his is pretty severe, so he's been on quite a few medications and things like that to get that under control. So, if you do happen to fall in love with Juan and his cute little, spread apart eyes on his face and things like that, then he might be, at least initially, require a few more vet visits to get his skin situation under control. But he is a friendly dog. He's more friendly with people. He's a little bit iffy with other dogs. He doesn't always have the best reactions to them, but, there are quite a few people on our staff that have fallen in love with Juan and his unique little personality. He is a dog that is going to need a lot of, training. He's very busy. He likes to get into different things as young dogs do, because he's only about a year old at this point. So he's in that age where he's, still has a little bit of puppy energy, but he's trying to figure out what's going on in the world. So definitely working on, manners, just so that he knows not to jump up on people and things like that. And I do believe some of our staff have already been working with him on some of those things, and just getting him used to being in an environment where he's getting more socialization and he's experiencing new things and able to play with toys and get treats and things like that.
So Juan is food motivated, so that will help with training. However, you do need to be careful what kind of food you give him. Correct.
I mentioned that Juan had some issues with his skin, and sometimes those things can be related to food allergies. So because we're trying to kind of diagnose what is causing Juan's skin issues, we have taken him off of any type of chicken, which is a common thing that we've been seeing in the last year or two here in the shelter. Dogs with some serious skin allergies, once we switch them over to a product, food products that don't have any chicken, their skin starts to clear up a little bit. So we have done that with Juan. He's not the only one in the shelter that's on that right now. I believe Sirius and Pisces are also eating a chicken-free diet, but that's something that a new adopter would need to take into consideration, and really looking at what you're feeding them, because even things that you don't think have chicken in them, like milk bones, have chicken fat in them. So you really need to read the ingredients list, or avoid things that are use things that are easy, peanut butter, cheese. Those things tend to be, chicken-free. So, checking in with your vet and, again, figuring out what's going to be best for him. But right now, that's what we've been doing to try to help troubleshoot this issue for Juan. But, he has a lot of potential with the right owner that's going to give him the activity and training and, enrichment that he needs to be the best version of himself. If you think that you are the person that's going to be able to do that for him, you can go to visit fcac.as.me to book an appointment to meet with Juan. Our next dog might be short in stature, but she is big in personality. She's also much heavier than you would think. She's all muscle. She weighs over 50 pounds. So she's a tiny girl, but she, very strong. And she's about one of our 2-year-old pit bull type dogs. She is brindle and white, so she has a beautiful coat. But she's definitely a little pistol. She comes in hot, as they say. And if you like a dog with a lot of personality, then maybe Gia is right for you. She's active and playful, and definitely is going to benefit from an active family. Even if you're not, necessarily a family that wants to go hiking or things like that, at least be a family that likes to, play a lot of fetch in the backyard and those types of things, because we want her to have an outlet for all of her energy. And I was talking recently, it doesn't necessarily need to be actual exercise, but taking dog food and throwing it in your backyard and letting the dog find it. Dogs are scavengers, so that's a really mentally stimulating and tiring thing for them to do. It keeps them occupied, and it can be a little bit of a calmer activity if you want to mellow this out a little bit. Fetch is a great activity as well, but that can give her a higher energy level. If you want to slow dogs down, you can use food and having them search for things or smell things as an outlet for that type of interaction. But again, Gia is a dog that's going to need a little bit of training to work on those manners, to know when to, not pull on her leash, when to not jump up on people. But she is a dog that already understands trade a little bit, so she has been willing to trade toys and things like that, which is a good thing. Usually a toy for another toy, 'cause as you can see, she really enjoys them. And she's capable of playing by herself, which is always an asset as well. She doesn't need you to occupy her. Give her a couple of toys and she's happy to be on her own.
So she does have a favorite toy. What is that?
Yes, she goes gaga for tennis balls. She's already played with it and lost it, the one she had here today. That seems to be her favorite. She will trade other toys for them, but she's not as open to giving them up to people. She also likes to chew them up. There's a sign on her kennel that says, "You can give me tennis balls, but when I tear it up, please take it out of my kennel." So if she were to be in your home, if you're having tennis balls and things like that, just be mindful. Tennis balls get destroyed. They turn into little pieces. We want to make sure that she's not eating those things. So just, supervising her and picking those things up. But again, if you have a home that's big enough to fill, to encapsulate her ginormous personality, and you want to make her part of your family, then you can go to visit fcac.as.me to start that process. The last dog that we have for you today is Xena, and she is equal parts wiggle butt and cuddle bug. In my experience with her, I went to take her picture and she's immediately excited to see me, very confident with new people. But she was just so excited. She was doing the whole body wiggle. She just couldn't sit still. And then once you kind of calm down and sit down with her, then she starts to, we're going to lean in, we're going to cuddle. I want to be close to you. I could foresee lap dog potential. She's not going to want to sleep on the floor on her dog bed. I feel like she might end up in her person's bed. She just gives me that vibe. She is very sweet, but definitely still an active dog that could benefit from some training to kind of help with her manners, as a lot of these young Pitbull type dogs are. Food motivated. Depending on the food, I guess. She was taking treats from me when I was taking her pictures, but I think I had some of the good stuff. They tend to know that I have the good stuff in my treat pouch. She seems to react favorably to other dogs, which is a great thing. But we do always, recommend and require that if you have existing dogs in your house, you bring them in to do a parallel walk with our dogs, just to make sure that there's not any red flags, that things are going to go, horribly awry. We want to make sure that we're setting all of our families and our adoptable animals up for success in their new households.
So Xena doesn't walk so well on a leash. So what are some tips that could help a potential adopter make her walk a little better? So
Xena is not alone in this. I would say a significant number of our dogs have this same challenge. And one of the things that's really going to help with that is just consistency. Once they get out of the shelter and they're walking with a consistent person, they can kind of, really focus on that. It's hard to do a lot of strict training in the shelter environment. So one of the things that you want to work on is, when they're pulling, getting them on a harness is going to be really beneficial, because then that you're not going to injure their necks. When they're pulling, they could really hurt their necks, their throat, things like that. So getting them in a harness, specifically a front clip harness. If you just have a harness where they clip only in the back, then it's kind of like you just set your dog up to be a sled dog, and it gives them the ability to pull a little bit harder. But when you put that clip on the chest, when they're walking and pulling, it kind of turns them sideways, and they're like, I don't like this. So then they kind of learn, how do I fix that? Oh, if I don't pull, I can walk in a straight line. And really not letting them get away with pulling too. It can be really hard, but if you let them pull, then they learn, hey, this is a thing that I can do. So walking the dog, they start to pull, put them in a sit, and then give them a little bit of a timeout, start again. Oh, we're pulling again, we sit. So they learn that if they want to walk forward, they have to walk nicely, because every time they start to pull, it stops. And there's also the treat method, which I use a lot. If they're walking right next to you, just as you're walking, pretty consistently shoving treats right in their mouth, and they're going to stay right here at your knee, because that's where all the magical treats come from. And that really helps, and I've done that with several dogs here in this facility. So there's a lot of different options, and those are things that we talk about with our adoptive families before we send them home with their new animal, to kind of give them some advice and some tips on things that might be something that their new pet needs to work on. So we want to make sure everybody's going to, again, be set up for success. But if you think you can handle all of the cuddles and the wiggles and the pulling on leash that Xena has to offer a loving family, you can start to make her part of your home by going to visit fcac.as.me. We hope you enjoyed meeting just a few of our adoptable animals. I would say we have anywhere from 16 to 20 adoptable dogs right now. The cat floor is pretty filled with both adults and kittens. So if there's something that you're looking for in this, fall season to kind of keep you guys warm and cuddly and happy, as the temps fall, we have a lot to choose from. So make that appointment and stop by and visit.